Hey everyone.
Good
Hey
evening.
everyone, it's a party here, and we're arriving fashionably late because that's how we roll.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. That's the way it
All the cool
goes.
kids show up
So,
to the party late.
what's that?
I
What'd you
said all the
say?
cool kids show up to the party late.
That's right. There is no late when it comes to the internet. Did you know that? It's always morning. It's always afternoon. It's always evening somewhere in the world.
Yeah, it's always 7 o'clock somewhere.
That's right. Or at 8 in the evening or something. So anyway, tonight, this morning, whatever you want to call it. If you're eating breakfast, getting your bowl of Wheaties in, whatever it might be. We're here to talk about Squid Game because I recently finished watching it, and I think all three of you, both of us, all three of us have seen it, right?
Yep.
Yes.
It's like
Okay.
we're just been waiting on you, John.
Yeah, I'm just slow, whatever. Um, I'm
So-
fine with it. I'm okay with being slow. I like slow.
Which is
Slow
cool
slow.
because you're the most Korean among us.
That's correct. Yes, indeed. Yeah,
So-
honestly, I started watching this show in English, and then people at work were like, "Oh, you're not watching it in Korean?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess I can."
And that's been the biggest gripe of this show is the dub, and the translations.
I think I switched about episode 3, and I started watching it in Korean, episode 3 onward. I need to go rewatch the first ones in Korean. But I do find it disturbing that it's like, yeah, because there's like certain Korean phrases I grew up with, and then I hear them, and I'm like, oh, okay. It just hits me differently, I guess. Anyway, so regardless, it's not a series that I would definitely not show my mom. I don't know if she'd really be thrilled. So I don't know. My parents took me to see RoboCop when I was like, really.
Oh, they should have no problem with this then.
I'm like,
They're clearly fine with like satiric dystopias,
yeah. I was like, I thought about it, I'm like, nah, they wouldn't like it. And then I thought, wait a second, yeah, maybe they would. I have no idea.
Yeah, fun fact. I was like, when I started watching this, I watched through the first 5 episodes on one Sunday, and I got told my parents, so yeah, I started watching Squid Game. It's like, oh no, it's like we had heard about this show. It's like we wanted to know if it was good to watch too. So it's like they had never mentioned this to me beforehand, but like after I told them I started watching it, they started watching it at the same time as well.
So here's the funny thing about that, because I think that this kind of just spread that way because I had no intention of watching this show. Like, but everyone was like, have you seen it? And then they, people are showing me pictures of like the dudes with the masks on with the different, with the different, square, circle. I was like, so what's the PlayStation reference? I don't get it.
And yeah, it's like that was like the same way with me because like all the people at my work were telling me like, hey, have you watched Squid Game yet? And it's like, no, I haven't. It's like I'm not really much of a TV guy. It's like, oh, you gotta watch it. It's like, and I also get like some grief saying, hey, it's like you gotta watch it, or else you're gonna be like left behind, like pop culture conversation. So.
And I think it's so, and I think it's so cool how this show kind of spread like wildfire like that because same situation with me. I heard it from a buddy at work, and he's describing it and telling me about the first episode about red light, green light, and just kind of explaining the whole scenario. And to me, like in my head, I'm thinking like battle royale, which for those of you who don't know what battle royale is, I mean it's a Japanese film in which these high schoolers get shipped off to these delinquent high schoolers get shipped off to this island and basically have to kill each other in order to win the game and survive and get out of their predicament. And I've only watched that movie once in my life, and I was like, dude, it's too disturbing, never again. So with Squid Game, I kind of had the same thing in mind to where like I don't think I'm going to like really dig this, but then just to be part of the pop culture conversation, I watched the first episode and it just like blew me away, dude. Like the crack just like settled in the bloodstream.
So I mean, okay, so did you guys like it? Why?
I liked it a lot.
I liked it although it's like I kind of wish that I'd gone into this the series completely blind, because like I'd heard about, oh, it's like, it's like, it's like a battle royale type series. It's like a death game type series. Oh, it's like, it's like there's also there's also the Dalgona episode, which is like, it was referenced on Binging with Bavish, which I figured, oh, I can watch this, and like, oh, well, now I know how he's going to win. It's like, and then there's also like someone at work told me like, oh, there's also like a tug of war episode, and it's like, I kind of wish I'd just gone in without not knowing any of this, even though it's like, I will concede that all this stuff was executed really well for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found it interesting, and I can't really, speak to truth on this, but I found it interesting that all these people who are participating in this game are in some type of like financial or criminal type trouble, and this is and going through this is in their only way out. Like, if they did not participate in this game, their life was over anyway. So they felt that it was justifiable or warranted to participate and at least try, because they would probably have a better survival rate getting through these games than they would have in the real world. And that's what's so jacked up, is like all these games were just like really effed up, dude. Like, I was like, oh man.
Yeah, it's like, actually we probably need to like explain like the basic premise, like, who is like driving this series in terms of like, the characters and all, because it's all like the first episode is all about like, this one guy, Song Ji-hun, who is just like, kind of like presented as kind of like not quite a scumbag, but definitely like a never do well. It's like, who's like someone who's like willing to like take his mother's like money to like she gives him this money like to spend on a gift for his daughter, and he takes it to a racetrack, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna bet it on this, and buy her an even better gift. It's like he's that kind of guy, and things go badly for him, because not only like even though he does win, he loses the money, and also like the loan shark he's in debt to gets his number as well. So this guy, it's like, it's like he's not in a good way, and so when he meets this one guy like on the way to the subway, it's like, and he tells him that, hey, it's like, how about we play this like game where it's like I will, it's like, if you win, like I'll give you 100,000 I forget what's 100,000 like won. Yeah, it's like, and if I win, then I just get to slap you. It's like, and yeah, it's like he loses like several rounds and the guy slaps him, but then when he wins, he gives him the. Just
to clarify that,
yeah,
he doesn't have the money, so he says, "I'll pay you to slap you," and that'll be your payment. Just to let you know. So just go on, but you can continue.
Yeah,
if you lose and you don't have that money, oh well, then I'll slap you for X amount of dollars. Is that cool? So that's what he winds up doing. Like, there really isn't a way for him to lose this piece.
Yeah, but then after he finally wins and gets that 100,000 won, well, then he tells him about this other way to it's like, to to get even more money, and that's what leads us to the first game, and like the whole red light green light business. So it's like that. Yeah, that's like the start of things, and it's like, it's kind of, I kind of wish I had like, it's why I wish I'd gone in blind to this, not knowing anything about what the whole like red light green light business was. So
and of course, like, when you're hearing about this at work and people are talking about it, like, yeah, they talked about like red light green light and what actually happened, but then like, I kind of wish I went in blind too. I think it would have been a little bit more shocking, but to actually see it from the descriptions, it was like way more shocking than what I imagined. I was like, man, this is really graphic.
So when you say going blind, like, what was there a tip off or someone tell you about it, like, or to start describing things to you? Like, what was the deal?
Basically, it's like I'd heard like, from people talking about it, how like there's like, it's basically like a death game type situation, and then there were other articles that it basically just talked about, hey, like it's like this Korean death game show. It's like that kind that kind of thing. It's like, and I understand like this has been spoiled by some of Netflix's trailers, but at the same time, it's like, it's like I understand that, but it's like just like I said, I realize it's a big ask to like go in blind to to something like in this day and age, but it's like I said, I feel like I enjoyed the series. I feel like I would have enjoyed it more if I had not been aware of like a lot of the stuff. If I had not been made aware like of what a lot of the games had involved as well.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna I went in blind.
I envy you, sir.
No, I did. I went in blind. I'm not gonna lie, because the only thing I knew is like there was some hype about it, and I was like, oh, okay, let's watch this thing. So I was looking up the Wikipedia article on Squid Game, and just on the development here. It says around 2008, Hwang Dong-hyuk had tried unsuccessfully to get investment for a different movie script that he had written, and he, his mother, and his grandmother had taken out loans to stay afloat, but still struggled to admit the debt crisis within the country. He spent his free time in a manhwa South Korean manga cafe. Manhwa is manga in Japanese. I mean, in Korean.
Korean comics.
Yeah, yeah, basically. Reading Japanese survival manga such as Battle Royale, Liar Game, and Gambling Apocalypse Kaiji.
Good old Kaiji.
Yeah. So Huang compared these character situations in these works to his own current situation, considered the idea of being able to join such a survival game to win money to get out of debt, leading him to write a film script on that concept through 2009. And I will tell you, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, well, this reminds me of like, well, those I'd never Battle Royale and Kaiji. I've never like read Liar Game, so I don't know, but Kaiji I know. And I was like, oh, okay. In fact, there is a game that is in Kaiji that is almost exactly the same as the one they did near the end. So there might have been some other ones as well. So, and in this game in Kaiji, I don't know if you're familiar with this or not. So they're walking across a metal beam strung between two buildings, and it's very narrow, and they have to walk it to the other side. And if they get blown off and they try to catch it, well, it's electrified, so you're not going to be able to hold on to it, and you fall to the ground. Mm-hmm. So that's in Kaiji, by the way. So anyway, so I don't know. I'm gonna agree with you, Jason. I'm gonna say I like the execution of this. The only thing, there's a couple of things. I'm probably looking forward to what's coming next more than what I've already seen. And the reason why I say that is because while I enjoyed what I saw and the way it was executed, I felt that there was so much that was just predictable. And I say that because of like, yeah, so this old guy, he's not,
like grandpa.
Like I was like, he's not going to die. Like, period. This guy is not going to die. Geekyun's not going to die. He's going to be the survivor. Like those things, I was just like, yeah, I didn't feel threatened that he wasn't, because you're following him, and then it kind of made it pretty straightforward. I was like, okay, I would have been surprised if he died. That would have really like, oh man, that's it. I did like the detective. I like the detective angle in there. I thought that was kind of cool, by the way. So that was kind of neat, because I actually felt more like connected to that detective character in some ways than Geekman.
Because he's trying to like he's picking at the like the structure of the genre. It's like like that predictability you talked about. Like he's a guy who's actually trying, like aware of the game, and he's trying to undermine it or unspool it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, it's like, what's gonna kind of happen to this guy,
Yeah, and then I thought that when he found the answer to his question, that was pretty. I also suspected that, by the way. He's looking for his brother. I'm like, I'll bet you he's him. And yeah, he was. I forget what they call that character, but that was who it was. So to me, those like the character things, it was like, I wish it was a little bit less. I don't know. Maybe a little bit more obscure, but to me, it just felt like, okay, this is where these people are going to land. They all did. But that's why I said it's not a criticism. It is kind of a criticism, actually. But it didn't mean that it detracted from my enjoyment of the show. Like you said, the execution is really good in this show.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw, it was like, and I didn't find it shocking. In fact, I was like, oh, cool, we're doing this. After the red light green light thing, I'm like, we're doing this, let's go. Reminds me of kaiju. So anyway, very, very interesting, and I particularly enjoyed the show based on that. I want to know more about what's going to happen. I want to see them produce something that really follows up on this. It's like, oh, this is it's getting interesting now. See, for me, like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't think that old guy was ever going to really die. And, like, even when they were doing the marble game, I was like, they're going to fake his death. It's exactly what I thought. And
because you didn't see him, like, shot on screen.
Exactly. I'm like, look, unless I see him shot on screen, I won't believe it. Didn't see him shot on screen, like, he's alive.
Yeah, so we know, like, hey, Alzheimer's, I mean, like, that's kind of something that's really easy to fake. In terms of acting and all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, but like, yeah, so that's kind of my like my quick overview of it. Like, I thought it was great though.
Yeah, I do want to point out that like the reveal of like when the front man took his mask off. It's basically to put it in American terms, it's kind of like he took his mask off and it's like, holy shit, that's Brad Pitt. It's like in terms of like Korean actors, because like this is because the guy who plays them, Lee Byung-hun, like big Korean actor. And he's also like star of probably one of my favorite Korean films, A Bittersweet Life. Because like I actually showed that to my parents like a couple weeks ago because I wandered into that film and wandered into like that movie. It's like at like a PMX convention, like well over like probably 15 years ago, and it's like. It's like, okay, let's see what this is like. Holy crap, this is cool. It's like, so yeah, it's like it made an impression. But I know that he's like big time Korean star. So it's like I imagine like the reveal for Korean audiences that it was this guy. It's like, whoa.
Not only is it this guy, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Because it was his brother. That's the part that like I missed that reference 100%. Like, because I don't watch a lot of Korean anything. Well, my mom probably recognizes him, but yeah.
But I do appreciate the fact that like a lot of Korean stuff, this included, is like willing to be violent in a way that's generally kind of unexpected or like unconventional by American standards. Just like the whole like red light green light business is like not something you'd see like in most American stuff. It's like, and also just like the fact that people are generally killed off like without a second thought. It's like I always appreciate that. I mean, it's like there's still a lot American can learn from watching Korean cinema, and that's like, that's true here as well. Because like I'm still waiting for something like I still remember how Old Boy played out, and like god damn, that was really dark, and especially, and also like Best Picture winner Parasite. That's something that's just like was also like really dark as well, but it's also critically it was dark in ways that were unexpected and ways that we didn't quite see. Because like this I think is like the key to making something like if you're going to be dark and depressing, you need to do it in a way that we can't see coming. I mean, if we're able to see like the train coming, it's just going to be like frustrating and depressing more than impressive. Like if you want to like have us run over by the train, make sure that the light at the end of the tunnel actually is enlightening, which basically distracts us from the fact that the train is coming up behind us to kill us. Like as soon as we notice this.
So this is exactly my observation though. So it's like, all right, more. So
yeah,
I'm like, great, you've taken us here. Take us further. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you. But
Yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
yeah. I do want to see where they're going with this, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like I'm kind of worried that like they may feel like we're gonna see like the main character like fight against the Squid Game, but at the same time, it's like you kind of worry that this has become something that's like so popular that he can't actually succeed, because if he succeeded in dismantling the Squid Game, then hey, that's the end of the franchise, man. So
I could
so
think of
that's
several
that's
ways it
that's
could go. You're right. You're absolutely correct. And it's um, I, you know, maybe someone else will. Maybe they'll decide that someone else has to, take his place. You don't know, or that you know. One thing I thought was really interesting is when the detective was in the cellar and he's looking through all of these records, right?
mhm.
And he's just like of course he's looking for his brother, I believe, right? And he's just like he's looking, and you just see this stuff going back at least a decade.
Mhm.
So, and is it like, so the question is like, is it only this, or is there like the next level of it, where it's like, where he's literally, and I would like, is it going to be more of the same in a different way? Is Gihun, is he going to be like this is how you actually get into the second part, you know? And he has a kind of he appears to have a purpose at the end of this,
Mhm.
because he kind of changes, because it's been a year after he wins, essentially. Yeah, so kind of interesting. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's
we
like
don't know.
I can see him doing like I can see him trying to use the money he won to establish some kind of like anti Squid Game operation. But whether or
Hmm.
not it's actually going to work, or if it's just going to be like oh, it's like like you're like it's it's just going to like hey, like he's going to fail, and like oh, the game's going to continue. Or what if he like winds up in charge of things? It's like I don't know.
Now,
It's like
the message is still fairly clear, though. The rich get to exploit the poor here,
mm-hmm,
and it's kind of a very it's a very interesting thing. It's like at the end you see all the guys with the gold masks, the different it's like okay, yeah, all right, I get your analogies, guys.
mm-hmm.
I get what you're saying. Oh, that they're all American. All right, I think most of them are. They're not English
Most of
speakers,
it,
right? I
yeah. It's
think
like
maybe one of them. I don't recall. I think most of them were at least like they appeared to be American or something. Or they said so.
most of them were English speakers. I'm not sure
English
if like
speakers.
if we can say that they were all American, but that's kind of the implication. I think maybe one of them may have been like heavily accented Japanese, which
Sounded
wouldn't.
like it, but then it's hard to say. They're all wearing masks except for that
Mm-hmm.
one dude. So yeah. So yeah. So Myron, got any other thoughts on this too? I don't want to cut you out here from saying anything on it, but
Oh no, I mean, what one thing I really appreciated about this series is like the character development. With each character that we were with each of the main characters that we were presented with in participation of this game, like I really gave a damn about. Like, I mean, there were some that got on my nerves, like I think it was me Neo. She was like the kind of the old lady who was trying to get in good with certain groups to try to survive.
Oh,
um I
oh
really
yeah,
liked.
it's like the one that the Australian people called like a female Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good comparison, because yeah, she was a piece of work. And then Deok-Soo, who was like the gangster guy. I mean, even he had a compelling story and reason why he's participating in this game. And of course, the heartbreaker Ali, his involvement in
Yeah.
this game. So it was like I really love the characters that were presented in participating in this game, because obviously, like, you're always going to root for the main character, but each character, like, I really cared about and really wanted to see them come up. I obviously, we know that only one person can come out as the winner, but you would kind of hope that maybe by some miracle, like the ones that you care about can all come out in some sort of way and survive. But no, it was very tragic to see how some of these characters went out, especially like Ali being betrayed by um oh damn, what was his name?
Was it Chung
Ju,
Su?
Ju, yeah, Shang Wu, being betrayed by him.
Sengwoo, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Sang Woo. Like Sang Woo, like even though he did some despicable things in his life, which brought him here, like
Which he clearly learned from going to like business school in Seoul.
yeah, and it's like each person had a reason why they decided to go back because everyone participated in red light, green light, and then they had a chance to to go away. Go think about it and come back if you still want to do this. And pretty much like majority of the people came back because obviously their actual lives, going to John's point where the rich will always exploit the poor, and a lot of these people being in like deep debt, whether it's from gambling, medical bills, or some people's cases, what does Sung Hoo do? He like cheated, or didn't he embezzle people's money? Yeah, and so like he was on his way to jail, so like
he was screwed from like the start.
He was screwed from the start. So I love how everybody had a story on why they were there, and a lot of them you kind of cared about and really wanted to see them, come up. But obviously, like, we're rooting for the main character here, Ji Hung, because I just felt like he was so addicted to gambling and losing sight of what's important to him, his daughter, that I'm just like, dude, you got to break out of this cycle or you're going to lose your daughter forever. And so I felt that, if he won, this would get his life back on track. However, from what you guys have been discussing, it's a year later, he won all this money, but he feels compelled to either bring down the Squid Game, or there was a part of me too, like questioning what his drive was. Like, is he really trying to bring down the Squid Game, or is this guy just so addicted to gambling and the Russia gambling, he's going to try to participate if there's like a secondary Squid Game or something and try to take over or get more money, whatever that drive may be. So we still don't know, but I'm hoping that we do get a season 2. It sounds like it has been greenlit, and I'm, like John said, I'm really anticipating and wanting to see what's next. But I have to say, this show had some of the most compelling characters, like even side support characters. Like there were a couple people on the side that I loved, and when you saw them die, it kind of broke my heart.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna say, like seeing Ali go out like that. I mean, it's like you knew that he wasn't gonna make it to the end, but it still hurt to see him screwed over like that. So I mean, it's like the show definitely gets credit for making me feel that like he got a raw deal there.
Yeah, so execution again. That whole thing was so again, we were, and I kind of saw this a little bit. I'm like, okay, there's the tug of war, right? And it's like, okay, well, we know that we're going to need the strongest here. And then by the time you get to the marble game, it's like they've already developed relationships between themselves. And then they're like, hey, yeah, we'll go together. And then it turns out they're going to have to kill that person, which basically I was like, yeah, that makes sense because they're, the game is playing against, it's playing against each other. So that's why it's like, and by the way, the girls, Sebyuk and I think Ji Young. So Ji Young was the younger of the, I think she was younger. Anyway, I was like, by the way, that story, outside of the other ones, that one to me was like the most impressive because because she says it right in the beginning. She's like, let's just talk, and then we'll play one game. We'll play one game, and that'll be it. But we might as well talk because we can tell each other anything because one of us is going to die, so our secrets will be kept safe. You know,
Yep.
like there's no consequence. We can talk to each other any way we want to. And I was just like, dang, that's a pretty good concept. I kind of like that, you know. And then at the end, you know, like where she's talking about how, like, she saw that her father had killed her mother, and the next dead person she saw was her father because she killed him.
Yeah.
I was just like, dang, dude.
And see,
So that was like, I was like, whoa. And then at the end of it, she's just like, okay, so, Sabio throws her marble close to the wall, and then she just drops her. She's like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and see, she's one of those support, and she's one of those support characters that, you know, wasn't really like, you know, on a lot of screen time, but then like when they gave her background and her story, like you really like cared, and when she died, it's like, oh man, like that's heartbreaking. And so I'll reiterate, I really love how this series like handled its character development, and to your point, John, like the execution, because that's what was really heartbreaking about the Ali betrayal, because like in episode 2, like when they were on quote unquote break, Ali didn't have enough money to take a bus home, and Sang Woo loaned him the money so he can get home and say, hey, don't worry about it. So that bond was kind of like, that bond was like established right there. And then of course when they all go back to the game, you know, a lot of those people start to form this team. You know, when there's a larger number of people to compete against, it's like, hey, you know, let's form this team and work together so that way we have a better chance of surviving. And to John's point, like, you knew the point where survival of the fittest was going to kick in, and it was one for themselves. But when it happened, it just like when it happened during the marble game, that's when it kind of hit hard too, because even Ji Hong did it when, you know, the old man was, you know, pretending to have all his Alzheimer's moment, and he tried to cheat his friend, and he even called him out on that. He even called him out on that at the end of the series. So again, it's like, you know, it's dog eat dog, and everybody was out for themselves to try to get themselves out of their situation or make a better life for themselves. So I mean, it was a very gut wrenching series, and you know, I enjoyed it a lot. I was addicted.
And that reminds me of something else that I kind of saw. It was predictable. It was just kind of handed to you anyway, and if you didn't quite pick up on it, it was like, oh, okay. But I picked up on it pretty quickly when they were pairing up for the marble game, right? And then the older woman was left behind, and she was screaming and screaming, but you never heard them announce her death.
Yeah, it goes on to like that old genre. You don't see the body. It's like there's, it's like, then obviously they're like, you know, they're not dead.
Well,
now number one, the old guy, they did announce his death, but he didn't die. But before that, you know, they didn't announce her death at all, which was like, okay, so I suspected that she wasn't dead, you know.
Yeah, because she didn't participate. She didn't have a partner to participate.
Right. Yep. She thought it was an automatic death sentence.
Right. But now
she actually like get out of jail free card is what it was.
Yeah, until she came back for that bridge game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Homeboy shouldn't have did her, you know, had sex with her in the bathroom and did her dirty after that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was right. That was a great move.
A woman scorned, dude. A woman scorned.
Yeah. Yeah, that glass game, that was the one that I was referring to, was similar to the kaiju scene, you know. It's like similar. Not exactly the same. So and it might have been just his homage, because he, you know, like I told you, that was one of his inspirations was that. So I was like, oh, okay. Hey, cool.
But what was crazy about that episode and about that game, you know, it made me cringe, dude, because, you know, they said you know, one of the tiles is tempered glass and the other one is like regular glass. And the whole time I'm watching the episode, I'm even looking at the glass like real hard and seeing how the light reflects and like see if there's anything to tell the difference. But then there was one contestant participating who used to work with glass, and he said the same thing. Like, oh, light reflects off tempered glass, differently from regular glass, and they were using that, to kind of get through pretty far until they figured that out and turned off all the lights. And man, that was a nail biting, like, ender right there.
Even if you realize that this one guy, this no-name guy who had made it to the end, was he really going to make it to the end along with all the name people we've been following?
Of course not.
In depth.
Yeah, it was tension. That's
'Cause
all.
I didn't-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I didn't know who the fuck he was until that episode. So,
Yeah, pretty
so
much.
but it was crazy, and unfortunately, even though our three main characters survived, that's when Cybyuk got injured, and that kind of took its toll through the remainder of the season.
Yeah.
And that like saddened me too, because that whole dinner scene and everything, you just see like, oh dude, she didn't eat her steak at all. Like, something's up.
And did you know that the dinner scene is where they were sleeping? Number one. And they had cleared all the beds and the bleachers. But all of the games are depicted on the walls from the beginning. And you didn't start seeing them until they started clearing out some of the beds and stuff like that. And you start seeing pieces of them. But at the end, you see all of them. And it's all the games they were playing. It's like, what? So, yeah, pretty interesting thing. Not that I even noticed that. So, bravo.
and to your earlier point, John, and Jason, when you guys were talking about the Western rich observers of these games, it makes me wonder too, like, are these rich, powerful men hosting these games like all across the world? Like, we just got the Korean aspect, but is there a U.S. Squid Game, a Australian Squid Game, wherever the hell they're from? Like, it makes you want to go deeper into the secret society, why they're having this sick contest. Like, what's the goal of them doing this besides, like, I guess to them it's something to entertain them.
It's because they can. That's really the whole point here.
Of course, I mean, they're wealthy. It's because they can. But when, to John's point out earlier, these games have been going on for like at least a decade, and it's like, who started this? Why did this start? And just because they can, like, why do they get their jollies out of this? I mean, there's still a lot of whys to be answered that I hope that they cover eventually.
So if I were to just take like the on the surface interpretation here, you can probably draw connections between those rich people and the people that owe them money anyway.
Possibly, yeah. Because I mean,
so it's sort of like, yeah, you know what? It'd be great if these people could pay, but let's make them fight to the death for this instead. And it won't even cost us that much. It'll just be this.
I mean, that's kind of the whole point of like the second episode, especially like to show, like, even though it felt like, kind of we're marking times. Like we all know that all the characters are going to go back to the Squid Game. I mean, that second episode is also meant to show us that, drive home the fact that these people, they've really got no choice. I mean, sure they could like try and make things work in the real world, but really it's like this chance they're being offered. It's like it's the only real way out of their particular situation. And even if they fail, well, hey, at least they don't have to worry about things anymore.
Right. So you can consider it from, and this is like probably reading or putting too much mental gymnastics into it, but I'll go on ahead and give it a shot anyway. So you have all of these rich people who are putting on the games for their own amusement, right? Like I said, they're probably the richest of the rich. They're probably the people that they ultimately owe money to anyway. These people may default on their loans. So if you think of it from a very greedy perspective, it's sort of like, well, we were going to lose that money anyway, so it's better if we just watch them die. Maybe, we put all this money into a pot, and then, this is our revenge essentially against most of our our debtors. That's pretty wicked. Okay, that's a very wicked kind of like mental gymnastics kind of thing, because I can't prove that that's it, but it's not hard to connect those dots.
Right.
This is true.
So it's sort of like, yes, you can do that. I mean, what do they care? They got plenty of money.
Not the 1%ers, the 0.01%ers.
Yeah. And certainly, even at, I forget what the dollar amount was in won, but I mean, it's not like billions. It's just like, it's millions, I think.
I think it was like $40 million in US money.
Yeah, $40 million. Like, and let's consider it like $40 million is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. But those people represent, those guys with the gold masks. 40 million is probably not like it's
pocket
change.
Mhm.
If you make billions,
yeah.
if you're like like a Bill Gates or any of these other guys, let's just say it was like that. I'm not saying Bill Gates is one of these guys, but
Well, we
let's
did
just say
see
it was like 45 million. Like they purchased companies for that. It's like, we'll buy you out.
and see, I like your theory on this, John, because like, it's been a while since I watched this. So I have to go back and watch this again. But there were people participating in this contest that told the reasons why they're there, and I think there was a couple that, they had medical debts that piled up. Everybody had a reason why they were in there and why they owed money. So it makes sense that, let's say like, John Doe, who is one of the gold masks, he owns the company that handles like medical loans, and he's losing, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to debtors, that owe him money, and this happens to be these people. So it does make sense where like these are the rich of the rich just trying to get something back on their, defaulted loans, and that something is as wicked as entertainment, the rich exploiting the poor.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll
like I said,
have to see.
it really kind of like refocuses like everyone that's in charge that has lots of money and knows they're just basically evil bastards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I know that that's not really true, but in this world, it's 100% true. It seems like.
Yeah. and then that would make more sense for Sung Hee to like actually go back and try to take them down. Like, you don't have the right to do this to people,
Yeah, it's like I'd like to see him like actually succeed, but like the way this world is structured just basically means that he's gonna like just take all this money and like whatever kind of organization he comes up with, it's just gonna fail because the people like at the top here, like they're just too powerful. They're just like make the like he's just gonna fail regardless because like they're just too powerful. It's like, I mean, like, I'd love to see like a sequel where he actually manages to outsmart them, which is like the only way to win. But I don't know. It's like this world of Squid Game is very dark and basically suggests that even if you do win, it's like you're gonna be like left with like this awful case of survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
Like in the end, it's
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, and
yeah, it's like I don't know. It's like I just like I'd be interested to see like how do you actually like make positive change in this world? Like it just seems like it's going to like you're just gonna be like swallowed up by like the forces of capitalism and the rich people who've already won. It's like, I mean. That's kind of my fears for the second season. It's like, it's just going to be like, hey, it's like, guess what? Like he may have won, but he's still screwed in the end. Yeah. And that's just kind of like, it's not just, sure, it's like, it's depressing, but it's also boring because, hey, we can see this coming. I mean, give us something that we can't see coming. Something that, hey, it's like, even, like, I've talked about how like, I wish I'd gone into this series blind, which makes me, I believe this series did have something new to offer, like to people who went into this like without knowing anything about it. But for the sequel, it's kind of like if he's going to try and change things, it's like, well, it's like, are you going to be able to change things, or is this going to be all about him just like realizing that he can't change things and he's screwed, and that's just boring. So
yeah,
or maybe he will change things and he'll just wind up being like he'll wind up running things at the end of the second season, and third season will be all about him trying to change things now that he's in charge, realizing that he can't, and that's like, oh well.
So there's some interesting clues we have here of like that, because the inspector's brother joined the game. He won and he joined it. He
Yeah.
became the front man. And it's sort of like, oh, so it's like they've given us a piece already, It's like, oh, okay. So how did he get to be the front man? What's the deal with that? And why is it such a conversion? He's willing to kill his brother. See, that's a thing, or at least we're led to believe that he killed his brother. I don't know. I would say that he did from all things, but hey, this is like a Mace Windu who'd still be alive.
I'd love to see it's kind of like season where you find the brother is still alive. And he's like, yeah, but you shot me. It's like, I knew you'd survive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so true. But yeah, no, like I said, could be a Mace Windu thing. Like, he's still alive. Where's the body? Where'd he go?
We're waiting for like the Mace Windu series to be announced. I mean, it just hasn't yet,
Right, exactly. So you just don't know, but you do know that evidently his intention was to kill him, at the very least,
Yeah,
and
we also don't know if did he manage to get the data off to the police? So.
Yep. Yeah, there's some open ends there. Definitely some open ends. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of what would convince you to be that way, or was he just the rotten apple of the family? You just don't know. There's a lot of ways you could write things out, or you could just leave it there. It'd be like a red herring, right? Don't know. So anyway, definitely fun. I think it was a good execution again. So those are my final thoughts on it. You guys see anything else? You want to say anything else about this series? Anything at all?
I thought that the whole organ smuggling subplot was interesting. Basically, suggesting that, hey, this is a rotten operation that they're involved with, and it's going to spawn rotten parasitic operations along with it as well. So.
Interesting thing. They hang their bodies in the stairwells and they walk.
Yeah,
and then they explain it to them. And what do they say?
That the reason they were pissed about this is not because they were harvesting the organs, but because they were feeding the nature of the gains to that one guy. So that was,
they thought it did not provide an equal opportunity. They were exploiting something out of it.
It was ruining the fairness of the games.
Isn't it? Yeah, the fairness of the games. Just what? Okay. Yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting thing. I really did. It was don't do this. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they can do for the second season. I just hope that we get some outside the box thinking about hey, what it's going to involve. So
that would be good. I'm really interested in the second season, and I hope that they can execute it well, or keep me more off balance than I was on this. I don't say I was off balance. But I was just like I said, the execution was there. Things were predictable in some ways, like people surviving and things. But I liked it overall, and I'd like to see them do something more interesting in the next season.
Yeah, so. I will say that once second season comes out, I'm not going to wait to watch it. I will likely be watching it, day one, along with everyone else, just to avoid spoilers. Just binge it and just so I can not have anything ruined for me. It's after it starts getting out in the wild.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think on the other side of this, I'm actually very happy that more Korean media and more directors and writers are coming out to producing really good content, and that it's starting to become a thing, and I like that. I really do. Being a Korean American myself, so although I don't know a lot of my Korean relatives would watch this, but yeah, I love it, man. It's great.
Yeah, it's and I use this as a springboard to show my parents a Bittersweet Life, because I told them, hey, it's this is this is a movie that stars the front man from Squid Game, so.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's go watch Bittersweet Life. it's great fun, especially if like if you don't know anything about it going in.
Yep. So according to that article, he was in discussions with Netflix regarding a sequel, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that
has it been confirmed? I have no idea. He plans
basically, like, I understand the problem was that the how the writer, it's like, I think the writer had gotten some nominal compensation, because it had been licensed from Netflix. It's like after it blew up on Netflix, he basically said, "Okay, yeah, like I want to make sure I get paid for this." It's like now this is like a big, huge worldwide phenomenon, and I don't think that his whatever contract he had signed for this original series allowed him to to benefit from that. Like he basically said, like, okay, I want to make sure I get paid for this one, and I think that Netflix basically said, yeah, okay, we'll give you what you want, just give us Squid Game season 2, and that's what's happened now.
Cool. Well, I look forward to it. Any last comments there, Myron?
I find it weird that this series has kind of been popularized with kids too, because see a lot of saw a lot of little kids dressed as like the henchmen for Halloween. I see a lot of kids buying Squid Game pops, and I see Fortnite Squid Game shit. And granted, just like you, John, I mean, my parents took me to see RoboCop 2 when I was like 7, but they couldn't find a babysitter, so I saw it. But still, like,
it's like, how did you guys get stuck with the cool parents? My parents took me out of Spaceballs when they heard the word asshole.
My parents didn't have a choice because they couldn't find a babysitter, so it's just like, yeah, cover your eyes and cover your ears. But obviously, I didn't, because it's a movie about freaking robots.
Mine but by default.
but Ed 209 did give me nightmares, so it was somewhat regrettable.
Pretty violent stuff there, man.
Yeah.
So it was a guy that got dipped into the I forget what it was. Like he's all melting on the windshield. Like, that
gave me nightmares too. When he had like it was like raw sewage like poured all over him, and he melted. Like, help me.
Yeah.
But I just find it like,
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I just found it weird, like how kids are taken to this series, and I'm like, damn, dude, like, what do you know about Squid Game? So I mean, that's how much of a pop culture phenomenon this series is. And to your point, John, I'm really glad, like, Korean films and art are becoming more exposed to Western audiences, because they got a lot of dope stuff. And to that
it's
point,
uniquely messed up. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. To that point, since Korean films are becoming popular in the West, please re-release Volcano High on Blu-ray in the U.S. because I have not seen that movie since the early 2000s when it aired on MTV, and it was an awesome Korean action film. So please re-release that. But yeah, overall, like I'm hyped on this series continuation, and I really do hope that we get a good compelling story in a season 2, if that's in the cards, because I felt like this ended on a good note to where, like, okay, if this was one and done, like, leave that open ended and leave it to our imaginations on what Young Hee's going to do. But I do want to see more, and I do want to know a little bit more on the whys of certain things. So yeah, I mean, Ji Hung changed his hair color and ditched his daughter for a reason. So I feel like there's got to be more to this story.
Yep, absolutely. More to come. All right, guys. Cool. We'll talk to you next time.
Have a good evening, kiddies, and a great weekend.
Enjoy Spider-Man.
Yes, sir. You too.